Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. I'm Steve.
And I'm Marty.
We do this show every week or almost every week to help promote aquaponic cannabis growing as well as aquaponic growing and cannabis growing separately. Um,
Aquaponic cannabis
we um,
as well
we
as
go over this stuff, a bunch of different topics every week, and uh, yeah, we have a good time and try to cover politics and nutrients and grow methods and all different types of things. So thanks for joining us. Sorry for the late start today. I'm still having all kinds of technical problems with my end. I'm not really sure what happened. Everything was working fine, and then it was acting a little funny. I decided to reconnect and disconnect, and then everything went haywire. So
I don't like to be a conspiracy theorist, but it was right after you made that joke about the CIA.
it was. And so I was telling him the building where my office is at the now, and where is an old um and where I'm working with Key to Life and stuff at. There, it's an old CIA. They had like high profile protection people and stuff through there, um, and it's all like bulletproof and all kinds of crazy stuff. But they have a tower there. They're thinking about trying to get the licensing permission to do like a cannabis radio or something crazy in Denver. Who knows if it'll ever happen, but it was just something that we were thinking about, joking about. Um, but yeah, that's what he was referring to.
So, how's
Our
your week been, Steve?
my week's been good. We've been working on my life's been totally crazy. So before I go back to Jamaica, I'm going out to Humboldt. We'll be out in Humboldt working on some projects out there. So we'll have some really cool footage of some stuff out in Humboldt. And starting after the 15th. And what else do we have? Yeah, a bunch of different stuff going on. We have a bunch of different things in the cooker. Um, there's some cool stuff coming down the pipeline in the nutrient end. Some cool new delivery methods and some cool stuff you guys haven't seen before um, that we've been cooking up. Um, yeah, it's pretty dope. Trying to think what else. Nothing. Just I'm about to move my grow that you guys have seen in the videos over to a buddy of mine's house here in a week or so when he gets back. Um, and that'll be you'll continue to see videos and stuff from that setup. Um, just I'm giving it to someone that can take care of it and will listen to instruction and all that while I'm gone and things. And they're gonna take good care of it and be able to keep good doing those video series like I was doing before I left for Jamaica. So that'll be really really good for everybody to see more aquaponic growing stuff.
Couldn't
Um,
talk your girlfriend into doing it anymore, huh?
well, she just got a bunch of other stuff going on right now, and she's actually got. And I'll see if I can get some footage before I head out from Colorado here on the up in up north of here, up at a big hemp farm. We're actually doing a big test with biochar in the field with hemp. So we'll see how that works out. It'll be really cool to see.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. And then what else do we have going on? I think that's about it for now. Some other things going on, but I can't talk about those. Um, there was one other thing. Shoot. Oh yeah, we'll be out. I'll be out popping around on the West Coast if anyone's looking to get together. I'll be out between in Northern California and Oregon. the end of July. So if anyone's around there, definitely let me know. I'll be up visiting Marty and stuff. So
Yeah, sounds good.
yeah, definitely let me know.
That sounds cool. And then you said you'll be in Humboldt around the 15th, right?
Yeah, and then after that I'll be in the Humboldt for at least through the winter, at the least at the moment. Well, until I go back to, unless whenever our stuff gets further along in Jamaica, and our gear gets there and all, we'll go back down. But that won't be for at least a month and a half at the earliest. So it takes about a month and a half to get everything together and get it shipped. So whenever that is ready to roll, we'll head back down there, and then we have some other stuff going on in the Caribbean, some of the other Caribbean islands that we'll be putting together. Actually, have a call about that tomorrow, about all that stuff. So, yeah, we'll have some other stuff to show off to you guys later once it's finalized and all that. What about you?
Well, not a whole lot's been going on garden wise. Pretty much just been maintaining at this point. Everything's looking pretty good, getting some pretty good growth. I haven't had a top water in a while, so that hasn't been an issue. So I give them tea about twice a week, and that's about it. So the indoor is probably like 2 weeks or week and a half or so into flowers. So not much happening there yet either.
How do you like the dual root zone plants so far versus the non that you've grown in the past?
Well, I haven't noticed too big of a difference. I think I'm probably at the point in the indoor to where if I was going to top dress with something else, now would basically be the time to do it. And when they're about 2 weeks in the flower and they start, getting ready to start really sucking up some nutrients to start forming flowers and pre-flowers and all that. So I've just been the same stuff that I've dosed into the system before, whether it was in the tank or in the bed or whatever. The same worm juice essentially that I mixed up before, I'm just putting into the dual root zone. And so in the outdoor, I definitely noticed that the plants are more stable in the wind, so I don't have to worry about them. Like, none of them really broke last year, even though we had 40-mile-an-hour gusts. They were all, all the stalks were very healthy, but what would happen is the plant would tip over in the media. So it would just be, the stalk is still straight, it's not bent over, it's not crooked, it's not snapped, but the whole plant shifts over, which wasn't really a big deal, but I did notice that having a little bit more of a base prevents that from happening. So that's definitely been a bonus. And yeah, other than that, I haven't really noticed too much of a difference. I haven't really noticed functional wise, there doesn't really seem to be a difference once you set them up. Like you've talked about before, you can dose plants individually if you need to, but I haven't really had to do that. So pretty much everybody's just gotten the same thing. So far, so good. I guess I like it just fine. And it's all just, all my stuff is castings. I'm not mixing anything else with it. I'm trying to continue just making all of my own stuff. So my soil layer is essentially just dirt from my backyard mixed about 50-50 with just straight worm castings from the bottom of my worm bin. Which I think was a question at one point. Somebody asked if you can do just castings for a soil layer. And I didn't do 100%, but I did 50-50. And that seems to be working fine.
Yeah, if you do 100%, it can kind of lock together and get kind of like a mud solid at the bottom and reduce airflow. So that's the downside to using 100%. That's why I wouldn't recommend, even if you want to do 100%, cut it with like perlite.
Perlite. Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
Perlite or coca-cola or something else that's going to, really reduce that amount of, add some aeration. reduce its lock, the ability to lock up like that.
Right. And then I also, I did, the bottom layer inside of the pot I did with just hydrogen. So there's probably a solid, like, a third of the pot that is just straight hydrogen before the layer of, I just used the food grade liner, the same just scraps that I had from other stuff to cut some holes in the bottom of it so that, to create a barrier that would be non-wicking barrier between the soil and the hydrogen. And then the bottom of the pot goes about a ½ inch below the water at its highest level. So the siphon comes in to the bottom of the pot only about a ½ inch. So it should only be hitting the hydrogen. So that's how I set up each one of these. And I haven't noticed any issues with soil getting sucked into the bed or anything like that. But for the most part, I don't even move it. So sorry about that. So I guess I wouldn't know what it was until it, fell down in the middle or something, I suppose. But
damn, Marty, you popular.
I know. People won't leave me alone. My dad and my wife. So anyway.
You can take it if you think it's important, by all means.
No, he's just old. He'll text me. It'll be fine.
Word.
Oh, I also got a text from one of the people that's in the Right to Grow group that we talked about before.
Word.
Let's see. Interesting. So yeah, I haven't really talked about that yet, but I got I'm not going to show it on camera, but this is my extortion letter from Jackson County that highlights how I have to pay their $1,500 fee if I want to grow outside. So that's going to be fun. So I talked to them about their lawsuit. That's what she was just texting me about. Because hopefully I'll be able to apply for the permit without paying for it. So that at least until their court case is resolved, which is supposed to be within the next week or so anyway. So, but they've said that for 2 weeks now. So I guess that's a little bit hard to believe too, but at any rate, they have a lawyer that's going to draft up a letter. Yeah. Is going to draft up a letter that basically we can put in along with our application that essentially says we're not going to pay $1,500 right now because if we pay you $1,500 and then the court case prevents you from enforcing these regulations, there's no way we're going to get our $1,500 back. So because it's just for a farm use permit, so it's not it's specific for cannabis growing. So even though they're using it that way, they would still just go ahead with the application and give me a farm use permit, even though I wouldn't technically need one for any other reason.
Just get some goats and some chickens and just go. If you got the farm use permit, man, just go full obnoxious with it. I really,
That's the thing,
why not?
I can have goats and chickens. That's the ridiculous part about it. There's no problem with that.
Whatever you're allowed to do with the farm use thing. Bring in some kind of crazy ass tractor that just keeps your neighbor up late at night. Just get back out.
And I know it's this asshole that's right fucking there. I know it's him. Nobody else can even you can't see my grow at all from the front yard. My 2 neighbors on either side can see it, and then other than that, my property backs up against the wetlands that's right here behind it. You can't even build anything within 250 feet of the back fence out here. So there's literally nothing there for probably 2 miles. So it's stupid. And it's all just to keep people from being able to grow and to enable people like this guy next door to be able to get his panties in a bunch and file a complaint about his pot growing neighbor. So yeah. So anyway, hopefully I'll be able to, I'm going to apply, I'm going to send the letter. I'm still going to apply for it, but send the letter that says, you know, we're, you know, essentially supposed to wait. And I'm supposed to be able to grow, because all I have is my card and my 4 recreational plants. So I should be able to grow my 10 plants regardless. But for whatever reason, and it says right here on the piece of paper, that pretty much that they're required to let us grow our 4 recreational plants and 1 patient. So that's 10 plants on property, except for like this very specific area, which I happen to be in. So I'm not really sure, like, you know, what the deal is. Because even if I was in just residential property that wasn't in this particular area right here, which they deemed urban residential, even though I'm not even technically in any city limits, I'm just on county property, but I'm like sandwiched between 2 cities. So if I was a little bit farther in either way, I would be inside of city limits. So it's just this weird inclusive area to where they're treating this entire area like it's still inside of the city that it's not inside of. So my theory is there must be like a council member's dad or something that lives over here or some ridiculous crap like that. Or property values. They're probably trying to manipulate property values for some, well, I guess for profit, I guess technically, right? So that's what I've been dealing with, is trying to decide how I move forward with that. So I'm hoping that I'll either do one of 2 things. Either I'm going to pay the $1,500 and then hopefully be able to have more plants. So I'll go find like 3 more patients and be able to have 24 total plants. And I'm going to line his fucking fence with giant plants. And then I'll just like do all my trimming on the front porch, which is right like facing his porch. So that'll be good too. I'm just going to like bring it, I'm going to like hang it from the rafters out here in front. Just be like, I got my permit. You can call whoever you want. I like get a big industrial fan to like blow the smell in his direction.
Burn all the trim right in your yard. 55-gallon drum, just blowing the smoke right in his house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna find like the most Rasta looking dudes that I can find to just sit on my porch like 24/7 and just like blast music and do nothing but trim weed and roll fat joints. Just be like, every time he walks outside, I want him to be like,
you walk out and be like, hey man, can I help you with your trash, man?
Every time, man, be like, you want to hit? Just yeah, I'm so sick of it,
smoke itself.
Look, I tried to take the high road. Like, I have my shit way in the back. Like, you can't even see it. Like, if he's even up here at his house, there's no way that he's even going to smell it from back there, even in full flower. Like, maybe a little bit, but at least I'm been trying to be considerate. I don't, like, the neighbor who grows on the other side is definitely not. So, you know, he does basically that. He opens up his garage door in the front and sets up loud speakers and music and has a bunch of his friends over, and they all trim in his garage and in his driveway and everything, and it pisses off the neighbors. So, you know, at this point, I'm thinking about going that route. Like, why the fuck not?
Yeah.
You get to have your drunken barbecues whenever you feel like it and invite your son over that yells at everybody. Yeah. So, why not? I just, you know, it's just annoying. They're not even in flower yet. The plants are like, I don't know, 2 feet tall. And I have already filed their complaint. It's just, it's ridiculous. I don't understand who's petty in that way. So
it's ridiculous.
Enough venting about that, I suppose. Because other than that, everything looks great. I think you probably saw I posted a couple of pictures yesterday. So yeah, it's been looking real good. Getting lots of new growth. Everything's been pretty much on the same. I've been comparing it to last year, and I put out a little sooner this year, but as far as like, if I count it from when I got everything set up and things established, then it's, you know, pretty much seems to be on about the same pace. So I'll be pretty happy with that if I can reproduce the same results as last year, then that'll be good. And hopefully I'll have a little bit bigger plans just because, they'll have like an extra, probably about 2 weeks worth of veg time this year than they didn't have last year.
Nice.
So yeah, how you said you're going to move your system, right? How's that? Are you just going to load it up and?
Yeah, we're just gonna take it down, take the flour down, then take the veg down, and then set them back up.
So are you going to wait till you're like in between flower cycles, or are you just going to try and move the whole bed?
Well, right now this flower room's pretty much empty. There's one plant that just needs to get taken down, and then
Cool.
that room will be ready to just get disassembled and moved. But it's not gonna get moved until my buddy gets back in town. He's out of town next week, so he leaves tomorrow. So yeah, but yeah, it'll be good because we'll be able to get a lot more footage out of that. So
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, I was just trying to figure out what to do with it because I won't be around. I'm gonna be bopping around so much. I just wanted to make sure we can get some kind of constant footage out of it. Trying to set it up so that we can have, can start doing weekly videos from the system again like we used to do.
Yeah, I try to shoot for once a week at least. Seems to be pretty reasonable.
Oh yeah. So I had an interesting thing that I wanted to bring up that I found out. So there's the whole thing going around about the DEA rescheduling, and nobody really knows what's going to happen yet. Some people get their panties in a bunch or whatever about it. There's a lot of crazy implications on what could happen depending on how the ruling is implemented, and what they decide to reschedule it to. But one thing I wanted to bring up on that is that Scott's, who's owned by Monsanto, is suddenly trying to buy up like every fertilizer company that you can think of that's a smaller company. I'm not going to name any, but I know of at least 6 or 8 companies that are smaller, nutrient companies that a lot of people use, that have all gotten like crazy offers from them. So I'm just kind of curious if they don't know something that the rest of us don't, as far as which way legalization is going, which should explain why they're trying to gobble up all these other companies.
Yeah, I heard a little bit about that. I think somebody posted. I don't know if it was just one of my friends or if it was in a group or not, but they were talking about that same thing.
Yeah, Scott's has been throwing offers at everybody under the sun lately. So I just found that very interesting, and I don't know, might be a good sign as far as the legalization war. Not to look into it too much because who knows, but it would seem that way. There's some other cool stuff that happened this week. There's the California is going to get their legalization ballot. I know there's controversy as far as how the ballot initiative is. I don't actually know a whole bunch about it yet. I'm going to actually educate myself on it before I, pick a stance on it. I need to, so I'm going to read up on it the next week or two. Especially since I'll be out there for the fall, or at least a good chunk of it. What was it? Oh yeah, so they did a big study in cannabis in regards to Alzheimer's, and they found that it helps remove plaque-forming proteins from the brain, as well as other parts of the body, and flush them from the body, THC especially. So that was pretty cool, to see that, especially for those older brain diseases, that cannabis can have a huge impact. That's huge. And then the other one is that Colombia is giving out its first medical cannabis license. So you could see some Colombian cannabis here before once the U.S. ever gets their act together with importing. But Colombia's going to start growing cannabis, so interesting to see what happens down there with that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting as the rest of the world starts to, rethink the way they deal with cannabis, how and when rescheduling happens, and obviously there's a lot of different options for them to reschedule it too, and all of those have different impacts on the way it's going to get dealt with. So it's going to be interesting if they do it, and also when they do it, and then again on top of that, where they reschedule it to. All of those have different outcomes, I think.
Cool. So some of the other stuff I want to talk about is the nutrient I want to talk about this week was manganese. Manganese is one of the nutrients that gets depleted in an aquaponic system, especially older aquaponic systems. If you look at both Dr. Leonard and Dr. Ricosi's stuff, their longer term depletion levels, it was depleted in both of them. And there's some other stuff that we've done back at my old job that, and working with aquaponics, that showed that it does get depleted over time. There just isn't much in any of your food or any other sources that are being inputs into your system. It is also will show as an iron deficiency or ironish deficiency in an older system, like a year plus, in a system where you otherwise have been dosing iron and everything else seems, kind of okay. And usually it doesn't happen until at least six to 12 months into the system's age. Really easy and cheap to replace. And it's responsible for photosynthesis, respiration, and nitrogen assimilation, similar to how we were talking about the molybdenum helping make the nitrogen available to the plant.
Right. It helps the nitrification process, right?
Yeah. So manganese also helps with that process as far as the proteins and things that are involved with that. So the ideal manganese level is 0.5 to 1 parts per million for an aquaponic system for cannabis, and then you want to use manganese chloride, or manganese sulfate, but neither one of them will have any effect on your pH much at all. And then especially in the dosages that you're going to use them with. And then yeah, it's just one of those few things that, especially in older systems, maybe you dose it once every 6 months to a year kind of thing. If you're going to dose it just directly, as far as mineral wise.
Well, speaking of which, I got that iron from the aquaponics store. Was it True Aquaponics store, right? We had Roger on a couple weeks ago. And so I ordered that up. I'm going to go grab that real quick so I can show everybody what that looks like. I'll be right back.
So yeah, we've been working with where is it here? A couple different things here. So one of the other things I wanted to bring up this week, I've been going around to some different places lately, is I wanted to talk about early detection of mites and other insects, and some early detection methods, especially mites. At this time of year is spring to early summer. Mites spreading is real common this time of year. So get real low to the ground, or as though lower than the plants are. Crouch and then look up towards the sky if it's an outdoor, or your grow lights if it's an indoor, and just look for speckling or dots on the leaves, especially the lower leaves at first, as well as the very upper leaves. and just look for those to see if you have any mite damage. And if you see the speckling, then take a closer look and remove a leaf and take a look at the bottom and give it a real good close look and check it for mites and make sure you don't have any mite issues, especially this time of year. They can accelerate real quickly, and you don't want that. So it's definitely something that is real easy to check for. And again, it's something I can't emphasize, especially this time of year, is getting real low to the ground, checking your plants once a day, and just putting your eyes in front of each plant 15 to 30 seconds a day, even if you're in a hurry that day or whatever. Just put your eyeballs in front of it and give the plant a good once over with your eyes and give it a good close look and just make sure you don't see any new damage or anything like that. And maybe once a week, pull the plants over to where you can get them good lit and give them a good spin around and check them, depending on how your grow is laid out. But make sure you give them a good once over every week or two, at the very least. But definitely try to check them every other day or every day if you can. Because if you don't, especially this time of year, the temperatures and everything, those guys will take off quick and they can wreck a whole grow real quick. And um, I've seen some people lately with some early ones that didn't quite catch it real quick, and it wasn't too bad yet, but we definitely were able to show them that they had some stuff going on and catch it before it was an issue. But you got to be careful, especially this time of year. You there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay, good. I think I lost my video though. I'm not sure.
Yep.
My camera started freaking out. Apparently, it's a thing today.
Yeah, apparently Google Hangouts just hates everything with the stream today. It's been fighting us tooth and nail the whole afternoon. The other topics I wanted to touch on, and I was going over this a lot in Jamaica, and then I've been going over this a lot lately too with some people in Colorado, is topping, pinching, and bending. So every time the plant puts out a node, or every 2 or 3 times the plant puts out a node actually, and a node is when a new leaf and a new branch comes out. You want to cut the top of the plant off on the taller parts of the branches, or the tallest branches, or the center stalk, so that it terminates that and the plant branches out, and the lower nodes right below it get more growth, and you end up with more branches and more tops. That was especially in Jamaica, was a whole new concept to a bunch of the people that I was working with, and they just hadn't been exposed to that before. One of the other methods too I wanted to bring up is, if once you get comfortable with topping, which is pretty easy, you're just taking off the very top, maybe quarter to eighth of an inch, just the very, very tippy top of the plant, just the very, very top of the growth. You're just trying to terminate the stalk or the branch growth. You're not trying to do anything else. So, peel back as many branches as you can, so there's just the top little cluster of green leaves, and just trim that off. There's also a method called fimming, called fuck I missed, or F I missed, or whatever you want to call it. And that's where you cut it in half, and you don't completely cut the top terminal node, and that allows sometimes for 3 or 4 branches, but sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes you just get 2 anyway, and I don't know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's another method I at least wanted to mention.
Right, or super cropping also.
Yep. So
another thing that you can do.
Yep, that was the next thing I was going to mention, is super cropping, which is where you take the top of the plant or somewhere near the top of the plant or taller branches, especially earlier on in the plant's life, and you pinch it as hard as you can until you crush the inside of it. You'll feel it kind of go together, and squeeze it, kind of 2-finger widths high, and give it a good squeeze, and then bend it over. It'll flop one way or the other, and you can direct it which way you want it to go and all that. And you can either basket weave the plants together in an outdoor situation to give them a little wind stability, or you can in an indoor, you can bend them down right before you scrog them, so the plants are all ready to get scrogged out in your nets and stuff. And it helps a lot with that. And it also helps when you pinch it. It causes the circulation to get dramatically reduced in the portion that you pinched off at the end. And what that does is it acts similar to like your there's a hormone that gets produced when the plant goes to sleep at night, and it also has an effect when the plant doesn't get circulation. And that builds up in the upper end of that plant where the post bend. And what that does is it causes the root, the nodes and the flowers and the branches on that upper part to get much more that branching flowering hormone before it fixes its circulation and gets a good knob on it on the end, and works real well. But what that does is it gives a big increase in your node growth and your branching, and you'll get a bushier plant that way. The other one I've heard of, and this was recently I was shown, it was twisting and cracking, where you take a branch and you twist it until it cracks on the inside, and then you can bend it that way as well, which I haven't done too much before, but I met two people that recently that do it a lot, and found that pretty interesting.
Yeah, I saw that on somebody's YouTube video that they did it that way too, and I actually tried it in my last indoor grow. I tried both twisting and pinching, both, and it really does the same thing as long as you snap that inner stalk of the plant or whatever you want to call it. Then, I think however you do that, whether you twist it or you snap it, as long as you can do that without splitting the outside of it. That's essentially that. And even if you do split it, you can, obviously just wrap it a little bit and it will definitely repair itself. But I think ideally you want to be able to just snap the inside without splitting the outside.
So we had somebody in chat with a question.
Yeah.
It says, where can I order tilapia babies? You can order tilapia babies online. I know there's a couple of different websites. I think it's White Brook Farms, and then there's Tilapia Source or Tilapia Depot, something like that. There's a couple of different websites you can order from, or on a lot of states, you can look up your local state's fish and game website, and they'll have a list of certified vendors of game fish. And almost all of those guys have some tilapia or can get them in. And you can always find a guy that's near you, and they can just get them in for you, or they might even have them in stock. If not, they can direct you to someone that's legally certified in your state, to direct you to.
Yeah, here in Oregon, they have a list that you can get from the state that is all the hatcheries that are certified by the state and to sell different kinds of fish. So it's usually just a PDF you download off their website. That's what it is here in Oregon, anyway.
Yep, most states are easy. Not all states, but
right.
Such as the U.S. He also asks, you have a curing question. What is your curing question, Mr. Tyler? Did you have any other topics, or what other things did you have going on lately, or things that have come up?
Not too much. I'm still babysitting the catfish eggs. So they should be, from what I understand, they should only be about 10 days or so before you start being able to see them inside the eggs. So some of them are turning different colors. So like some of them are turning a dark color, but I haven't, they're under the water, so I haven't really got down there to see. But I would assume that that the dark color is being able to see the fry starting to form inside. So still babysitting those, but other than that, they're still just fish eggs. And not really too much system-wise. That's it. pretty much it. And then I went and got this iron from the Ponics store to be able to show you guys, but now Google Video is not cooperating, so show you that. But I did order that from there, and it was relatively easy to mix in. And I just did a little bit because I already have iron in my water, but I wanted to be able to have this to show you guys. So I guess I'll do that next week. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me. I don't really have too much else going on other than the legal stuff, which I already ranted about and don't want to rant again about. So that's pretty much that.
Do you want to talk any more about the lawsuit that's going on there? Is there any updates or anything with that, or?
Well, it's pretty much coming to a head. They are pretty much going to have to rule on it within the next few days. So that will basically, and the injunction is already filed. So basically, if the lawsuit gets accepted, then they have to accept the injunction, which will prevent them from enforcing any of the laws that are involved in the lawsuit that has already been accepted. So that means that as long as both of those two get accepted, then I won't have to pay or do anything. They won't be able to enforce any of that stuff, any of those regulations that have to do with growing inside or outside, or the increased regulations on plants, because where I'm at currently for the state, I should be able to have at least 24 plants if I want to do reporting, which means I have to track all my seeds and clones and how much product they produce and where it goes. And they have a whole list of things that you have to report if you want to do that, if you want to be registered for another grower. So even then, that means that I could have 4 patients at 6 plants each. That's 24 plants plus my 4 recreational. That would be 28, but I'm limited to 10 by Jackson County. So hopefully all that stuff will happen, but who knows if it actually will or not. I don't have a ton of faith in our legal system, so I guess I'm preparing for the worst. So I'll be basically doing as much as I can legally, and yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing, is whether or not those two things get accepted, because then that will at least prevent them from coming in and tearing out my plans. So other than that, that's pretty much what will happen. Is if I don't take them out, then they, it's not like they'll arrest me, which they'll do in most states, but they'll come out and tear out all of my outdoor plants.
Mm-hmm.
Nice of them, right?
Yeah, fucking some dicks about everything.
Yes, it is true. And I'm pretty sure my neighbor used to work for the county, so that's why he made sure all of his paperwork was very thoroughly filled out. So it wasn't even like a week after I guess it was probably like not quite 2 weeks after I put plants in the ground that he had all of this done and somebody out to take a look at it. So
did you have any other products for the can I use it this week? That's the one thing I didn't have time to go grab anything for this week.
Well, I guess I can talk about it even though I can't show, which is what I got for that was this iron chelate from Roger over at True Aquaponics, which is basically just a powder of iron chelate, 11%, food grade. It's relatively simple to use. You can mix it into a water solution and pour it in is probably what I would suggest. They have a whole sheet that comes with it that explains how to calculate how much you should put in. So it's pretty easy to use. It's just a powder. Yeah, so I just mixed it in with my worm tea that I normally feed, and added it to one of my beds. And like I said before, I get a considerable amount of iron already in my water, so I used about probably a quarter of what they recommended for just a normal system, because I already know I have a lot in there. So I was not really concerned about that. But so far in my what to use category, I actually went and got the whole box of stuff. I still have the Maxi Crop powder, which is basically just sea kelp powder, and that's the same kind of thing as pretty much you mix it in with a solution, or you could top dress it, I suppose, if you wanted to. And again, I just mixed it in with my worm tea right after I've already brewed it and got it all ready to go. Then I just add it right before I add it with everything else. So I mean, essentially, it's just food for microbes. And then I have the raw microbial mix, which is I'm not sure what to think about NPK after their whole, their recent stint with their Mega Wash or Mighty Wash or whatever. But this is what I had at the local grow shop, which is basically just microbes. There's a whole list on the back, which are specifically designed for blooming, or at least it's what it says here. But we talked about it in one of the previous episodes when we did that. And then, of course, in here I have the Mammoth P and the Modern Microbes testers. Yeah. So I'm going to make a alfalfa SST. I ordered some alfalfa seed that I'm going to use to make a sprouted seed tea and blend it up, and then try to make essentially a Mammoth P culture, since that's pretty much, for the most part, what they're putting in the bottle here is alfalfa extract in order to feed it on. So I'm going to see if I can create like a little homemade Mammoth P bucket. See how that goes.
You want to explain to people what seed sprout tea is? A little bit? I know we've touched on it before, but
Sure. Yeah, it's basically, if you look up sprouted seed tea, that's what SST stands for. And how to make it, there's a lot of different walkthroughs online. You can also go to where I got the instructions to do it, and the ones that I follow were in the Probiotic Farmers Alliance group on Facebook. It's in their resources section. It's easy to join. You just search for it. And I don't even think you have to be approved. I think even if you do, they're pretty quick about it. And they have a ton of stuff in the resources section. But for the most part, what you do is you have some people do a rice wash, some people just use plain water, but for the most part, you're filling up a container, putting a bunch of seeds inside of it, and letting them soak for probably usually for like 7 to 10 days, or until they're sprouted. And I've done it to where they're sprouting, or they're even getting to the point where you would start transplanting them, and they're getting to be like relatively good size. And then I throw them in a blender and blend them up and fed them to my worms. That's how I had previously used them. And so now this time I'm going to do just a pure alfalfa one. I've done corn. You can do alfalfa. I've heard of a few other ones that people use, but you're basically just sprouting a whole bunch of seeds inside of a bottle and then blending them up and using all those enzymes that get released from that are already contained inside the seed. And they're great for growth. And so in this case, I'm doing that with alfalfa in hopes to be able to allow the bacteria that's in my sample bottle to be able to breed and grow, and be able to use a little bit of that in each one of my teas to be able to continue breeding those microbes out. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my plan for SSTs. I don't know, have you used them very much? I've used them for worm feed quite a bit, and I've used them on my outdoor soil grows last year. But I've never experimented with just adding them directly to a system or anything like that. So I don't know if you have any.
I've never used them passively as a fertilizer. I know some people that have. I've always used seed sprout tea to germinate older seeds. It's a great way to germinate old seeds. You got
Makes
a seed
sense.
that's 3+ years old, and you're not quite sure it's going to germinate. It's the way to do it, because it has all those hormones that wake that seed back up, and that's all it is a collection of it in all that water. So that's really what you want to go with, and it really helps with those older seeds, for sure. That's how it was first introduced to me. My grandmother actually grew up during the Depression, so they didn't really have money to buy any of their own stuff. So they made their own cloning gel out of fresh cut willow branches and concentrated, and they'd make their own insecticide for different insects out of. They make a nightshade tea out of potato and tomato leaves and some pepper, hot peppers, seeds, and just all different kinds of stuff that she brewed up, and she compost teas and all kinds of different stuff that she introduced me to, and seed sprout tea. She taught me about the seed sprout tea when we were germinating some old vegetable seeds, but that was the first time I had ever been exposed to it. So
yeah, it's supposed to release a number of different enzymes, like as soon as the seeds crack and even as they start to grow and establish their first roots, they're releasing enzymes that I guess from what I read are in a lot of cases, especially with, I think it wasn't alfalfa, it wasn't corn. I want to say maybe it was just like wheat. Or no, barley, that's what it was. A lot of them were using barley for their veg teas, and being able to just essentially sprout a whole bunch of them, and then those enzymes, when they get released, and the reason they were adding them to their fermentations was that it was a nitrogen fixing enzyme. But that was just what some dude posted in PFA, so I don't know if that stands up at all, but. That's part of what they were doing with it. But the reason I was there and reading about it was that they had some really good instructions for how to do them and different ways of doing them, and some discussion about it. So I haven't, like I said, I haven't added them directly to an aquaponics system, although I'm confident you could, especially if you do like I did and blended it up and gave it to, just put it into a grow bed, for instance. I'm sure it would dilute relatively quickly. It's pretty much like a real thin mush for the most part. Once it's blended up, there's really not much substance to it. So, I know the worms love it. They eat it up, and see a huge push in population. Kind of like if when you put coffee grounds in or something like that, you can just see a big difference in their activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my sprouted seed tea experience. It's relatively limited. I've only been doing them for a little while. My buddy that's a big organic grower and been a member of PFA for a while and done his last few grows with that sort of bokashi style growing. He just set up some SIPs, some sub-irrigated planters out of some kiddie pools, and some of that liner that I had here, and those are looking really great. I'm excited to see how those turn out.
Nice. So you want to explain what SIPs are?
Yeah, SIPs are sub-irrigated. Stands for sub-irrigated planter. So it's sort of, I really look at it really similar to dual root zone. In that you have a layer of soil up above, in this case, a small water reservoir that you basically keep full of anaerobic bacteria in a relatively low pH to what you're used to in a water reservoir, and allow that bacteria to sort of take over that lower section. And then for the most part, all of your nutrients are top dressed in, like when you start flower, they top dress with dolomite, different things like that. So if you look up, like Earthbox is a great example of a sub-irrigated planter system. They have the probiotic natural wellness garden, I think it's called. Don't quote me exactly, but I think or maybe it's just a probiotic wellness garden. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's the guy who does, sort of the professional level grow kashi. The original, if you were, I think his name is Alan Alkinson or something like that. I can't remember right now, but anyway, he was the one that posted all that and got together with Earthbox to create that system. But you can even, they've had, Earthbox has had their stuff around for a little while now too, but that's their combination project, and they've had some great results with that. So definitely check those out. It's a great way to get started if you don't have anything right now, or you don't want to build an aquaponics system, or you don't have room for it, or you might be in a situation like Steve is where you're going to have to move it. So it's relatively easy to move. They're relatively small size planters, and it comes with all the instructions, and it's really probably the simplest way to just get started growing like quality probiotic stuff with a relatively low learning curve, to where everything comes in it. You just basically put it all together, top dress a couple of things when they go into flower, and make sure that your water is at the proper level, and that's pretty much it. So sub-irrigated planters, not really that much different than a dual root zone, in that you have your top layer of soil, and then the plants reach down through that soil underneath it to be able to get their water. And so 90% of the time your soil isn't even wet up at the top. And so they have a term for it, I forget, like biomimicry or something like that, where they're basically attempting to recreate in nature the way that plants reach down into the water table below the ground to be able to pull up water, as opposed to rely on being top watered by just rainwater constantly. So that's the, I guess, the abridged version of sub-irrigated planters.
Yeah, and for anybody that's been listening to Dude Grows, it's similar to the guy's Scotty's Hempy buckets. Real similar to his Hempy buckets.
I haven't checked those out yet. I'll have to see what they're up to. But and like I said, it's really similar to do a root zone or whatever. Basically, you're just allowing the plant to reach through the soil. And in our case, when we're doing dual root zone, it's basically a giant dual root zone, or giant sips it's an aquaponic sips, technically speaking, other than we use anaerobic bacteria primarily to control our environment. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So yeah, that's probably about the only. I haven't had any questions or anything recently.
I haven't had anything today either.
So
I think everybody's out on vacation and getting their groove on for the 4th of July here soon. So
I also don't know where Tyler went. He must have dropped off when we thought we weren't answering his question, but hopefully we did. Tyler, if you come back and listen later.
Yeah. We'll get some guests back on the show. I was actually hanging out with Scotty from Dude Grows yesterday, hanging out for a bit. So we'll have some cool guests for you guys here soon. But yeah, I was hanging out with him, talking about him with possibly a new project here going on in Denver. We'll see how things work out. But yeah, might have something in the works here. Scheming, always scheming.
It's important.
Always trying to bring you guys more cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think that's about it for me. So unless you got something else, I think that'll be right.
I do. Key to Life is giving us a bunch of stuff to give away. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Leave a question for next week's episode, and we'll pick somebody that left a question, and we'll send them some Key to Life stuff next week. Okay. They're going to be giving us some giveaways for a couple of weeks, and yeah, thanks for them for doing that, and thanks for realgrowers.com and dudegrows.com for hosting us. They host our podcast as well. We also post some My buddy and I post some aquaponic blog content over there under the aquaponics section, so be sure to check it out. There's some really good articles on lighting and microbes and a bunch of other cool stuff on there. And yeah, shout out to True Aquaponics. They were on the show not too long ago, and
Yep, and they were great with my order.
yep.
I put it in. They got it shipped out right away. I had it within like 2 days, and was cheap, and obviously it was what I ordered. And so if you guys need any supplements, especially if you're gonna end up having to order it anyway, I get a lot of messages from people that are in outlying areas and stuff. He's got a lot of information about like what ships and what doesn't ship and where to find stuff. A lot of times he'll just say that just let it might be easier for you to find it somewhere, locally that you might not have thought of. Something they might have it. Like I think Steve was talking about some of the stuff they have at the chicken feed store, where you can find a lot of bacteria and stuff that they use to help, from a lot of different stuff, like anti-mite medication and different things like that. So yeah, definitely shout out to the guest on the show, and did a great job on my order here. So definitely check them out at the True Aquaponics store. If you need any supplements, it's a great place to find stuff that you can put into your system.
Yep, that's another great option as well. What else is there? I think that's everything for now. Be sure to check out my we have a website, it's Ponics. If you want to write us a question, leave it in the comments, or you can email me at potentponics@gmail.com, or the million other ways you can get a hold of me. Barty, you have your channel, and
yeah, so make sure I posted the link to our Facebook group in the chat section. So definitely hit us up in that Facebook group. It's Aquaponic Cannabis Growers if you're just searching for it. We post a lot of pictures to there in between shows and have a discussion outside of that. So any questions you have in between shows, you're welcome to post there as well. We'll try to cover those. My channel is AP Med, Steve's Potent Ponics. Subscribe to both of those. Yeah, I think that's it.
alrighty. Well, thanks everybody for joining us this week. I'm sorry for the technical issues in the beginning. We're having all kinds of problems, as you guys can see. So we're just grateful that we were able to get the show off today at this point. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys again soon.
All right. See you guys next week.